My name is Mazes. Okay, I hope you can hear me loud and clear. This evening, we are going to be looking at the controversial trending news on the tweet made by His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi, where he wished Gowon a happy birthday. And some of us took offense, or some people took offense on the content of that tweet. I think it's, behoves on us to really look at that tweet to understand what was intended, why that tweet was made, and what we think about that tweet. I must first start by apologizing that I did not start when, I ought to have started almost 2.5 hours ago, but that was as a result of, I had, it was as a result of the tweet made by His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi that has generated this level of conversation. And we want to really look at that tweet made. And secondly, we also want to review how much actually does those in the National Assembly, how much do they earn? How much do they actually earn? Right? So let's say maybe this audio. I believe this audio is better now. Okay, this one is better now, I believe, right? Okay, so thank you very much. Let's continue. Yes, you can hear me loud and clear, loud and clear. That's good. So, but let's, use the as a means of intro before we go back to his tweet. Let's use this, the material from Arise to kickstart this conversation.
90 over the weekend. Obi, in a post on X on Saturday, extolled Gowon, saying that his life of service to our great nation, Nigeria, stands as one of sacrifice, leadership, and unity. His tweet read in part: "In a time of hate, you stood for love. At a time of strife, you stood for peace. At a time of division, you stood for unity. Your steadfast commitment to preserving the peace and sovereignty of Nigeria during a challenging period in our history will forever be remembered and revered. Your exemplary leadership and statesmanship remain an inspiration to younger and many generations of Nigerians." Well, Peter Obi's birthday wishes to Gowon was heavily criticized by a cross-section of Nigerians who blame Gowon's regime for the death of millions of Biafrans. Well, in a follow-up post on Sunday, Peter Obi defended his message, saying that he needed to demonstrate to the world that true heroism lies in forgiving the enemy and moving forward. Well, his tweet reads in part: "Indisputably, the darkest part of our 64-year journey as a nation is the 30 months of civil war from 1967 to 1970. And God Almighty, whose way is not our way, must have a reason why he kept the chief persecutor of the war, who is General Gowon, alive to be 90 years today, and the man who saw the end of the war, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, to be there at 87 years, superheading all the moves to see a reconciled and just Nigeria. There was also a developing new spirit, while the same country, Nigeria, gave the Biafra leader, Dim Chukwuemeka Odumegu Ojukwu, a heroic national burial on 2nd March 2012, when he joined his ancestors, coincidentally, under my tenure as governor of Anambra State. The status of the burial given to Dim Ojukwu remains the boldest indication to the world that Nigeria as a country is disposed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation." Well, let me take one of the reactions that went viral after Peter Obi put out that tweet on Saturday. This is from George. He wrote, he sacrificed millions of your own people for unity. Unity without cohesion and love is a disservice to humanity. I mean, I believe Peter Obi also in the tweet he put out on Saturday did mention that his father died during the Civil War. Let me take another tweet from Dr. Maduka, who wrote, Peter Obi, why are you this desperate? You are so desperate you can't speak the truth to power. Gowon that attacked Biafra and killed millions of Ndigbo, including deliberately starving to death millions of innocent children of Biafra, is the man you said stood for peace and stood for love. You are one of those that have enslaved Ndigbo. You know, this reaction was also one of those reactions that, you know, was trending when they said, you know, they're saying that Peter Obi is so desperate and that's why he had to, you know, congratulate Yakubu Gowon in the manner that he did. But, you know, he talked about reconciliation a lot. Let me take another tweet from Pablox, who wrote,
So this is so far what is, you know, before the advert pop, let's say, take off the adverts, then we'll continue.
One in the manner that he did. But, you know, he talked about reconciliation a lot. Let me take another tweet from Pablox, who wrote, those involved made peace, but children of anger who weren't born in that era are still holding on to the war. In war, people win or lose. They die or live. Daily you ask God and your neighbor for forgiveness, but your heart is filled with bitterness and evil for others. Well, this Pablox had posted a picture of General Yakubu Gowon and the late Ojukwu. And with that caption, they wrote, wartime enemies, Emeka Ojukwu and Yakubu Gowon reconcile at the former residence in Enugu 40 years after the end of the Nigerian Civil War 2010. Hashtag history vile. But like you saw in his second part of the tweet, why he praised Gowon. He talked about the fact that, you know, we should continue to remain steadfast in our forgiveness. And as you saw also in that picture that I put out, Rufai, General Yakubu Gowon and Ojukwu actually met 40 years after.
Definitely they did meet. So a couple of things. I mean, I see the reaction from a lot of people against what Peter Obi said. Yes, because of the Civil War. And the magnitude of the pain of the Civil War has not gone away. In fact, when you hear some people say, they speak about life before and after the Civil War. And we should never forget the incident that led to the Civil War. We should never forget that there was an elections in 64 to 65 that opened the doors for the Civil War. And apart from Ojukwu and Gowon, Gowon was just that prosecutor, and Ojukwu was head of the Eastern region when the war finally started, was the real political actors and what they did from 1960 to about the 64 elections. And all the shenanigans they did. Don't forget, it was also that time we had Wetie in the Wild Wild West, as it was called. And when you look at what happened after the Civil War, the reintegration has not been complete. A lot of people, Igbos have a right to complain. The marginalization is still there. And that's why people like me campaigned heavily for an Igbo presidency in the last election so that we can have a balancing axis with return to democracy. Oji, apart from the things that are said or not said, my greatest fear is that the way our politicians behaved in the 60s that led to the Civil War, most of our politicians are still behaving like that till today. The sad reality on ground is today is the fact that we have not led anything for the Civil War. And if care is not taken, we can repeat the mistakes of the past easily. And that's my greatest fear. It's not what has been said or not been said. I mean, there are arguments across on both sides. The Gowon camp too can make the argument that, okay, where did the first plane jacking happen that led to the war? Who shot the first bullet that led to the war and all of that? We can go back and forth. Nigerians were killed in that Civil War. People were killed from the Eastern region, which was wrong, which was abhorrent. But the problem is, close to 50 years after, Oji, we are still making those mistakes that we made that led us to the Civil War. Mm-hmm. Take, for instance, look at one of this political class that Dr. Bati was talking about this morning. People that feel that they are larger than life, that they control a state, when there are people there that vote in elections in the states. And look at them. Look at the political class. Look at the pain and hardship that's happening in Nigeria today. Look at some people feeling that it's all about them. Look at the ethnic baiting that happened at the last elections. Look at what happened in Lagos and other parts of the country. Look at how we still vote. The political leaders then share a lot of blame. And how did they do it then? They used media to confuse the minds of a lot of people. Most of our top political founding fathers had media outfits. Don't forget that. They were owners of newspapers. And with them, they sipped into our consciousness this ethnic malaise we have today. So my fear is that many years, and I like the reconciliation video, the picture you put out.
Yeah. I thought it was
many years, Gowon
there.
and Ojukwu had their own personal beef, even after Aburi, pre-Aburi and after Aburi. We have a new political class that have not learned lessons from those wars. I mean, Gowon is still around, Ojukwu is long gone.
Yeah.
But we have a political class that have not learned lessons from those wars, and that's my sad part in all of this.
Yeah. Well, I think that there is wisdom in forgiveness. There's wisdom in reconciliation. I mean, happy birthday to Yakubu Gowon. He turned 90. And, you know, I guess that the story out there for a lot of our young people, the history that was removed from the past, I guess they can go ahead and read up on the history of Nigeria and the Civil War. Well, it's good that Peter Obi has called for forgiveness. Well, let's celebrate now. The annual Ofala.
Okay, so I think the point here, hence the title of this evening conversation or broadcast, is should that tweet that was made by Peter Obi, should that tweet be deleted? Many people, if you go at the bottom of that tweet, have called for that tweet to be deleted, obviously. But we should know that, you know, I think the worst thing that would happen is for that tweet to be deleted. Recall when Deborah was killed in Sokoto, and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar made a tweet and deleted that tweet. It would have been better that he left that tweet there standing than deleted. As a leader, there are things you do, you stand by those things you did. And ask me, on no account should that tweet be taken down. I understand that, some individuals who are not happy have called for that tweet to be removed or be deleted. I think that is, not going to cut it. That's not the right thing, and that's not the right call. If we go quickly over to the tweet in question here, for those of you who may not have had the privilege to read the entire tweet, let me quickly bring that tweet to us. Now, on Saturday, His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi made this tweet in the evening time, where he said, "I am privileged to join other Nigerians of goodwill to celebrate a highly respected leader and former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, on his 90th birthday anniversary. In a time of hate, you stood for love. At a time of strife, you stood for peace. At a time of division, you stood for unity. Your life of service to our great nation, Nigeria, stands at one of the sacrifice, leadership, and unity. Your steadfast commitment to preserving the peace and sovereignty of Nigeria during a challenging period in our history will forever be remembered and revered. Your exemplary leadership and statesmanship remains an inspiration to younger and many generations of Nigeria. As we celebrate this milestone, I pray that God continue to grant you good health, wisdom, and the grace of true fruitfulness. May your legacy continue to guide us as we strive to build a more united, prosperous, and just Nigeria." So people, once the tweet went out, a lot of people, obviously, some individuals or some people were not happy that this tweet went out. Some people made frantic calls to call to say, why would he put this tweet out? Why would this happen? Why would the other one happen? That's him here, obviously with Gowon. Now, let's take, you can see the engagement on this tweet is 2.5 million. Now, you can see that a lot of people began to make, comment, starting from Harry, saying, starting to look like you are desperate to be a Nigerian president. Shall anyway, Tinubu to 2031, if you like, bootlicking, whatever. Now, and you have people like Saki. Saki is one of them. I wouldn't call him an extremist, but it's one of those that are on ethnic drive on the Twitter space. He says, do you have your people's approval for this? Just curious how Igbos feels about this tweet, obviously. Gowon, the 1966 to 1967 hero, happy 90th birthday. So a lot of people, then Monye says, this is a no, this is a no, sir, a big no. I'll be watching from the sideline. Even big Bitcoin chief was also not happy. He says, this is too painful to read. Chai. In a time of faith, you stood for love. At a time of strife, you stood for peace. At a time of division, you stood for unity. So, he kept, a lot of people really weren't happy. Now, even ballistic obedience says only a simple happy birthday would have sufficed. Gowon is a war criminal. This is the philosophy that Nigeria needs, the philosophy of unity, nationalism, and forgiveness. Unity teaching us, sir, bigots are on both sides of the divide. Now, the whole thing went on and on. Then I think there was a conversation with Dr. Moore. Where is it? There was a conversation with Dr. Moore, Dr. Paul Moses. So Dr. Paul Moses had the following also to say after the whole thing. He wrote the following here. As usual, I called Mr. P2B after seeing some of the responses to the tweet on Daddy Gowon, and I said, some people are not happy, sir. Mr. P2B responded, More. I have always told you never to dwell on yesterday, to agonize over it, or remain unforgiving. We cannot be trapped by the events of the past. Instead, we must be grateful to God for today and look forward to tomorrow with hope. I understand the negative comments and I deeply regret the painful history that took place over 50 years ago. Though I know little firsthand, only what I have been told. Though I know little firsthand, only that I have been told. It is a sad chapter for many, including my own family. My father unfortunately lost his thriving business during that period and passed away, which remains a deep personal loss. My comment today, however, was about Gowon's removal from office and the grace with which he has handled those difficult events. It wasn't about the war itself. The focus was on the life he has led since his removal and his remarkable ability to remain prayerful and steadfast in his commitment to Nigeria. When I was a governor, he visited my state and we spoke as father and son. He even led a national prayer for Nigeria in my state. Our discussions were never about the war. We spoke about the future of Nigeria, and his concern was always for the country progress, not his past or the people who removed him from office. Pio, Mr. P2B has always shared with me his deep respect and personal closeness to Ikemba. He regards Ikemba as a true hero, someone whose leadership and vision he admired greatly. Peter Obi's loyalty to Ojukwu was resolute until his last day, and he took it up upon himself to ensure that Ojukwu received a befitting burial. One of that remains unmatched to this day, honoring his legacy with the dignity it deserved. Mr. Peter Obi's commitment goes beyond personal ties. He is determined to see a future that works for everyone. His vision for Nigeria is one of unity and progress, where the mistakes of the past do not hold us back or divide us. Instead, he believes in learning from history and building a better, greater future for generations to come. More, tell me, is there any nation today that hasn't faced civil war? From America to Great Britain, many have painful histories of war, yet they are not trapped by the past. Instead, they have forgiven, not forgotten, and used that healing to build a successful future. People need to be closer to Pio to truly understand how forgiving, loving he is. He's always looking ahead, desperately focused on building a better and greater future for all, irrespective of tribe, religion, and most importantly, for generations to come. Now, he on under Mo's tweet, then comes a lot of people began as in the original tweet. If we watch this video where someone posted also that had him, that was before even the election of last year, where he espoused that which he believed in, and he said the following in this video.
Those who look at yesterday and today will miss tomorrow. God did not give us eye at the back. We'll deal with some of those issues at the back. But mine is to look forward. Those who look at yesterday and today will miss tomorrow. God did not give us eye at the back. We'll deal with some of those issues at the back. But mine is to look forward.
So now, what is the point here? The point here, one will continue to say that that tweet on no account should not be deleted, because here he has tried as much as possible to also explain his point. Now, some people have gone up to say that, oh, it is a sign of weakness that he makes a tweet and people complain, he goes back to explain. I said, now, for me, that is the sign of great leadership. What it means is, imagine Peter Obi as the president of Nigeria. Certain decisions are taken that the Nigerian population feels it is not right. A leader must, at any time, there is no shame in it, to come out, face the people, and tell them, this is what I mean. This is what it is. This is what we are going to do. Imagine that Nigerians came out to protest. Police goes out there, shoots Nigeria, arrest some Nigerians, take them to prison, charge them for treason. The president doesn't say anything. Is that the kind of leadership that we want? Don't we want a leadership that once that happens, that the president himself can actually come out, say, I do not, support what the Nigerian police or the police have done, that they should do X, Y, Z in accordance with the law, since protest is not a crime. And if he is misunderstood, that he will come out again, because it is, governing and leadership is like running a family. You have a 9-year, 10, 20, 15-year-old. I mean, some of you who have children will know that when children are between the age of 3 to maybe to 9, 10, anything you tell them, the next thing you say, you hear, at least in my case, you say, why? They keep asking why. Why? It is your job as a father to explain why. Because if you have not, and if you cannot explain why, then you have failed in your parenting. And in this case, in parenting, in governance, it is about about leadership. Why has he done what he's done? And he has, Dr. Mo has tried to provide some insight as to why that happened, right? Um, People are now saying if there are public appearances of God preaching for proper reconciliation after the Civil War, as OBJ did period to 2023 election, someone please, obviously, people started pointing to that because Ballistic was also, making his own argument that, he should be pointed to a place where, uh, you know, uh, Gowon had made any public apology. I am also aware that I think was it in 1990, either 1999 or in the year 2000. The one I'm aware, I am too sure, is there was this national prayer that happened in Omaya then, I think the township stadium, where Gowon came, and it was all about national reconciliation and prayer for, I think it was called prayer for the nation or something like that. As a Christian, he had gone to, do that. But now, the question is, should this tweet be removed, and should Mr. P2B have done that? Should he apologize to to Nigerians for making that tweet? That is what the cocoa of the matter is. Should he apologize for making that, and should that tweet you know to be taken down? And if we take more responses, we'll see this right here is why it's important to think in system. System think will change your life. So that's a way Emelugbe. Tell me to forget about tell him to forget about 2027. No need of wasting his time already. People on ground have seen what he wrote. People on ground. How many people read Twitter? Anyway, um, I'm of the vibe, forgive, but don't celebrate them. Yeah. So you are all expecting Peter to continue a war the innovators already moved on from. No way. Sorry, the war, the innovators, basically the initiators. So what this person is saying that if Ojuku and Gowon could embrace themselves after fighting for 3 years, now you want the generations to come to keep on, living in that, past of regurgitating of the war. Now, after this, yesterday, that explanation that we talk about, P2B now wrote this, making clarification to his earlier post on Saturday. He said, and I read, why I congratulated General Gowon at 90. My felicitation with Nigerian former military head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, on his 90th birthday anniversary, which was celebrated by a cross section of Nigeria, has been received with mixed feelings by some Nigerians, and some have expressed their sentiments publicly and privately to me. I share in some of them, and I feel that as a leader in the vanguard of providing direction for our country to shift base away from all our shortcomings, including the issue that caused our avoidable cruel war, I need to show to the world that the ultimate heroism is forgiving the enemy and moving forward. Now, I want us to, in his response now, I want us to highlight two things here. The two things I want us to highlight is number one, that here, including the issue that caused our avoidable cruel civil war. Number one is that this war of 1966, 67 that culminated from the coup of 1966 was avoidable. The war was cruel. The war was avoidable. Mistakes were made, especially from the Nigerian side. And also, let's not deny that I'm unapologetically Igbo, and let's not deny that mistakes were also made from our own side, because at some point some of us believe that we could have engaged even in the face of provocation, to have more than we eventually engaged. The rest is history without regurgitating much. Now, was the war avoidable? Of course the war was avoidable. If you read people like um Pa Mbazurika Amechi, if you ever had a one-on-one with him, these are men that will tell you. If you also have read or interviewed and watched people like General Madiebo, and he would also tell you, as an active participant in that war, that there are certain things, mistakes made on both sides. However, one thing that we cannot take away is the question is, should we forgive? Mr. P2B answered it here. I need to show the world that ultimate heroism is forgiving the enemy and moving forward. That brings me to the argument here. If we go back to the war between United States and Japan, many would argue that it was unprovoked, even when Japan was using their kamikaze pilots to inflict serious injuries to the United States in the Pearl Harbor. It is, however, unquantifiable, the same way many of us would think that using hunger as a weapon of war is unquantifiable, right? That led to the massive kwashiorkor within the then Biafran territory. If United States of America and Japan, after United States had thrown two nuclear weapons to Japan in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, those were unforgivable acts. But fast forward today, United States of America and Japan are now great allies. Considering, but that does not mean that Japan would wipe it off and they will forget about it. No, they have forgiven the United States of America for using that, very terrible nuclear weapon on Japan. But Japan will never forget, because they would always teach their generations unborn, generations to come, the history of the Hiroshima war, or Hiroshima, nuclear invasion. If we go back again within that time, you look at the killing of the Jews in Germany, in their numbers, millions, in the Auschwitz, where they were, gassed in the chambers systematically in an industrial scale. Yet, fast forward again many years later, the Jews will never forget that these acts took, that this act took place, that these acts happened in Germany. But would they then say they've all developed amnesia, that they will not remember, that they will no longer remember what happened to their forefathers and what happened to their forebearers? The answer is no. Germany and Israel as a nation today have become a very strong partners. But that doesn't mean that Israel will forget. But Israel, in that sense, has forgiven Germany, but not to forget. So if we apply these, look at it as to the context in which we are now talking tonight, I would say, well, He is right. The ultimate heroism is forgiving the enemy and moving forward. But I would add here, moving forward does not mean forgetting about the past, right? He continues, indisputably, the dark part of our 64-year journey as a nation is the 30 months of civil war from 1967 to 1970. And God Almighty, whose way is not our way, must have a reason why He kept the chief prosecutors of that war, who is General Gowon, alive to be 90 years today, and the man who saw the end of that war, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, to be there at 87 years old, superheading all the moves to see a reconciled and a just Nigeria. There was also a developing new spirit why the same country, Nigeria, gave the Biafran leader Odumegwu Ojukwu a heroic national burial on 2nd March 2012 when he joined his ancestors coincidentally under my tenure as governor of Anambra State. The status of that burial given to Dim Ojukwu remains the boldest indication to the world that Nigeria as a country is disposed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation. There are various ways human beings can human beings can respond to act of evil, especially one that claims millions of lives. One is the tragedy of revenge. Exactly. I like that word, the tragedy of revenge. It brings to mind, if you look at the Tutsis and the Hutsis, how they fought in the genocide of Rwanda, killed themselves. But at some point, they were able to forgive themselves, to forge ahead, to build a united country that today Rwanda, irrespective of the fact that they are smaller in nature, but has become one of the few countries in the African, in the mother continent that you can actually point and say, this is where things work. And indeed, if you ever visited that country, you would agree with me that things indeed work in that place. Now, he continues, one is the tragedy of revenge, another offers the hope of forgiveness in an attempt to forget. Basically, only to, either we forgive while we remember, right? Either we forgive while we remember, or we remain in the cycle of the tragedy of revenge. I will not want to be on this side, the tragedy of revenge, because it means the cycle continues. If you look at it now, you look at what happened in my state of Anambra State yesterday, where we woke up and we heard that in Nibo, we lost about 16 to 70 young children, not young children, young adults, in cult related activities. Now, someone who appeared to know what happened explained something to me that fits perfectly into this narrative. The narrative is that cult A, sometime last year, massacred some people in Oka, the capital city. And those that committed that act relocated away from Oka, went into the villages and were living underground peacefully. There was New Year festival in Nibo over the weekend. And during that celebration of that New Year festival, those other side who think that they've gone away from the radar of their opponent came out to celebrate the New Year festival without knowing that tragedy was behind the corner. Now, and yesterday's act, as it was explained to me, was a case of revenge that left 16 or 17, as the case may be, young Igbo boy's death. Now, if that act of revenge continues, that means there will be no peace. It may take a year, 2 years, then you go back again. You know, do we want to stay in that act of revenge, as P2B perfectly argues here? Or do we want to go on the trajectory of forgiveness? And why we do not, you can't wipe it. It's just like someone, I don't know, someone, does something terrible, you can forget, but hey, you can't wipe it off my brain. It's there, it's something that happened. And as long as it's something that happened, I have the right to remember that this incident actually happened. Now, and he goes on to say, the latter confirms neatly with the template I adopted in greeting General Gowon. In all my dealings with human beings, I try to be guided by my faith as a Christian in a strong message preached by Jesus Christ himself, underscored in reflection in St. Paul's letter to the Colossians 3:13. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. And to Ephesians 4:31-32, get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brewing and slander, along with, you know, every form of malice. Whatever reason I have, whatever reason I will give for joining the rest of Nigeria to greet General Gowon may never truly conform with some persons, of course. Of course, we know that will not sit well with everybody. Even this broadcast this evening will not sit well with some people. Some people will think, "Oh, you've gone nuts. You are not Igbo enough. You are not this." Well, again, it may not sit well with you, especially direct victims of the war. But anger, hurt, and bitterness are the commonest response to cruelty. It fuels sectarianism. It leads to resistance and avoidable bloodfield that we are witnessing across the globe and even in our country, and it does not abate. There is something about forgiveness. It sets the person doing it free. Forgiveness is more a process than an instinct. It's hate that has put our society, blessed by God, to be the greatest land in the black world. It is hate that has put us down. But this hate has to stop. And I agree. I was under 10 years old when the Nigerian Biafran War started in 1967. Most of my supporters across the country joining me to get a new Nigeria were born after the war, including myself, Mazes. And I didn't feel I should drag them back to the dark side of our history by being unforgiving. I feel such an act would derail the message of New Nigeria that we insist is possible. Must you greet him? Why didn't you keep quiet? Some angrily said to me, but that will still be injurious to our journey to a new Nigeria, whereas all political vices, including but not limited to ethnic, religious bitterness, and regional segregation, are eliminated. Various personal experiences of victims of injustice across the globe who have chosen to put ugly things behind them visibly demonstrated transformation power of forgiveness in healing personal and collective wounds. Now, this one now gets more engagement even beyond the other. The other one is 2 days old. This one is 1 day old, right? The other one has 22.5 million engagement. This one has 2.6. So I think, okay, it has a part two actually. With this explanation, I would like to admonish all those angered by my greeting to elder statement to bear with me and join me in this mission to create a country where hate, unforgiving spirit, and other vices will give way for justice. What Nigerians need badly urgently to survive going forward is good governance, which can only germinate and grow in true peace and the presence of justice. Thank you, and God bless you. Peter Obi. Whoa. Now, um, so now Baron Chimeka now says, you couldn't have said it better. So let's see what he meant by that. Everyone should let obedient who aren't happy about Peter Obi's conduct towards General Gowon to criticize him. Peter Obi is not above criticism. It goes to prove that obedience are not zombies. Like the other scallywags, obedient have a mind of their own and can stand for what they believe in. There is nothing wrong with criticism or expecting PO to always be right at all times. Peter Obi had continually said he likes to be criticized and he doesn't like those who won't challenge him or hold him accountable for what he does. Obedient are right to criticize him if they feel he hasn't done well. Peter Obi is always right to leave the past in the past and move forward. We should all accept that Peter Obi is a nationalist and at least he is an officer of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, OFR. Two truths cannot exist comfortably. PO is right in what he has done, and some obedience are right to criticize him. As I have always said, no one is above criticism in this camp. If Peter Obi leaks a, a mic off fails to come online to address us, him go collect water. You know those leaking mics. Test him, they ask him test the mic. He will do mic like this. And I will try. It's this mic they test like Bolero. Anyway, that's on a comic side. As far as I'm concerned, Gowon is a murderer and deserves no peace here on earth, or he is, or in his afterlife. Good morning, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and God bless you and yours. Amen. So again, that's an opinion. This tallies to with what I said before that what Nigerians want is a leader they cannot disagree with. In fact, let me tell you, if you know how many messages uh, um, and Twitter inboxes I have gotten, people saying Peter Obi must come to Twitter, should come to Twitter space and speak to them. This, that. That is because they feel that they are part of him, they own him, they can, he represents them, he is their leader. But I do not know on the other side if a man who contested an election has not spoken to you, has never bothered to, interface with you, how do you think that he would ever listen to you, or he would ever come up to clarify anything, that he has done? Everything he will do, or they will do, is to do it, not even respecting you enough to do it on their own. They will use third party. But in this case, right? And taking more reaction from this, I can see. Ochichi said, Ojukwu already made peace with Gowon after the war. Peter Obi is only following in footsteps of his hero and leader. Think about it. If you're a Christian or a Muslim hating on Peter Obi for daring to be a true nationalist, unifier, hear this. 1 John 2:9. Anyone who claims to be in the light but hates a brother or a sister is still in darkness. It goes further to say, Leviticus 19:17-18. Do not hate a fellow Israelite in your heart. Rebuke your neighbors frankly, so you will not share in the guilt. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Ephesians. Now he goes on to read the equivalent of the, in Quran. He says here in Quran, Surah Arafah 199 says, hold to forgiveness, command what is right, but turn away from the ignorant. Surah Imran 3:134 says, who spend in the cause of Allah during ease and hardship, and who restrain anger, and who pardons the people, and who pardon the people, and Allah loves the doers of good. The believers are but brothers, to make settlement between your brother and fear Allah that you may receive mercy. So honestly, it is a hell of information in, you know, going back and forth there. Some people agree, why some people doesn't, and some are saying, "Well, we demand apology for you from you and this, that." Right? Let me tell you, those who are saying he must apologize, he must do this, he must do the other one, I say, you can go to sleep. There is nothing to apologize in this case. Yeah. So again, the only part that I find, and again, that's my only problem with Gowon is here. Gowon went to war to keep Nigeria together. You finally got the Nigeria that you are to keep together. You had your 3 hours. And after the war, you governed for about 4 years plus. One would have expected that within that 4 years, that you should have used that 4 years to implement those 3 hours. Earlier this evening, I had a conversation from with a former commissioner and a former minister, and our argument, centered on my questioning of why did Gowon not do these things aforementioned. I'm the individual wanting to tell me in his thinking. And he says to you, Ma says, okay, you are in project management, you understand projects. And that sometimes in project designs and implementation, that some project after your initial requirement gathering may not eventually turn out to be entirely the way that project was written on paper. Well, I say, well, it could be, but it depends on what type of project. Because if I wanted to build a 3-bed house and you do whatever you do and give me 2.5-bed house or 4-bed house, then you have totally departed from the project. So there is no two ways about it. However, there might be some variations, both in timeline, in cost, and whatever. And I said, well, can we look not agreeing, but probably not agree, but not probably, agreeing in total. What am I saying? My point remains very simple, that understanding that, yes, sometimes you might be at the top and you want to implement something, those that both at the regional and the subnational level might eventually do things that may not end up being the way you conceived it. Well, Um, let me concede, but without agreeing. So that's the point. So my point is that no matter, we must all say this enough. For those who think that we must go back to 1966 and 1967 and stick our head there and say, no, things must, this is, the war has happened. We have lost people. We have lost people. My dad left Asaba to the village, then abandoning the things, one of his Morris Minor, abandoning one of his cars in Asaba without even crossing over. Because I think there were those, according to him, there were those who didn't necessarily believe that war will happen. When they've sent their families, my mom and the elder older siblings back to Anambra State. They didn't believe that the war, he personally, Isiekwong, didn't believe that the war would happen. By the time basically got for him to leave and flee, there was no bridge to cross his car. Then, there was nothing like Tokumbo. When someone, was able to buy a Morishma, it's, of a certain class, but the rest is history. So my point, again, people agreeing with His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi, I will say to us, we need to move forward. Yes, forgive, but do not forget. Forgive, do not forget. Do not forget in the sense that history of the war must be taught to the younger generations, that they should know this is what happened. This is history. This is what it is all about, right? But when I look at it, I say, this man know the tire myself. Yesterday, he was where? Can't remember. Oh, okay. On Saturday, he was in Owerri, right? Owerri. Now, to Kukuma buy a private jet now, because the way you basically fly like bird all over. The other day, he was in Owerri. And today, he's in Dutse, right? This is it, in Jigawa, Dutse, Jigawa. Now, on Wednesday, he's going to be in Liverpool. Everywhere. Everywhere. So I know that the one man meant to the more is watching. So man one meant to the more, you can meet him up in Liverpool, right? So everywhere globally. So people, that's it from me, right? That's it from me on this particular one. Now, let me go to my second point. But before I go to my second point, I want to actually for us to listen to this before I'll dive in to my second point of discussion this evening.
By the time you set up a good government based on justice, these divisions that we are mentioning now will cease to be relevant. Who becomes president will cease to be relevant. Because when a just man is in authority, people will not worry about the geography of his birth. That's why it's written in some book, when the righteous are on the throne, people rejoice. You need a righteous man. And there are righteous people in every component of Nigeria. But we must know that justice is both feasible and infeasible. And the feasible component of justice is that every Nigerian should look at any place in Nigeria and say it's attainable to them. For this reason, I share the sympathy with the leaders of Niger Delta and the southern leaders of the Middle Belt Forum that the concept of people having the feeling that you can rotate power, not only from region to region, but from religion to religion. I also believe from gender to gender, from generation to generation, should be something that is common. And I believe that it's a power that rotates is better than the one that does not rotate. But the rotation from one unjust man from the north to another unjust man from the south, or an unjust man from the east, or an unjust man from the west, that's just rotation of suffering. And that is not the rotation that I believe in. And I believe that if we keep having this conversation, we will not look at ourselves from where we come from. We will look at ourselves from where we are going.
Honestly, I am beginning to like Barrister Dewale Esquire, the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, the SDP, the party that late Moshood Abiola contested in the election that he won Tofa in 1993. I mean, that's on a side note. Now, my point here this evening, people, is very simple. That in the during the week, we had the conversation from the senator representing Abia North, Ojus Okalu, who said that 14 million naira per month is not enough for him for him and his colleagues 14 million naira is not enough. Let's listen to the soundbite first.
That 14 million is too little for my colleagues. Mind you, these are people who have made politics their career. These are people who earns no other income. I'm not talking only about myself. I sit with some of my colleagues who need help from me, who need help from other colleagues, who the 40 million cannot even do to work. I use that 40 million. I can show you, Ruben, I want you to take me on 3 weeks' time. I will provide you an asset banking account where I use that 40 million to pay my staff salary. Out of the 40 million, 9.8 million goes to staff salaries. I will provide it for you. An asset bank will bear witness. I will take an affidavit in the court of competent jurisdiction. So it becomes a legal document. So you can take me to court. So let me tell you, out of 40 million, I pay 9.8 million to salaries of my staff in the constituency and in the office in Abuja. And these are money that provided not only for me to put in my pocket. It's not my money. It's the money of office of a senator representing Abia North. Those money is if my aides are traveling, they need to pay transport from there to go to Abia to the constituency. If my aides are sick, they need to get that money to treat themselves. If I am sick, I have to get from there to treat myself. We need to repair the cars I will use, the committee cars, we need to repair everything that we need to do. And dressing allowance is there. Any allowance you talk is encompassable. This is what I said, and I don't shy away from it. And to my colleagues who are senators, that is not enough for them. That is the truth. Because I sit in the Senate, I interact with my colleagues who are senators. And they talk to me, they talk to others, we talk among ourselves. If you check 40 million naira, which I get and most other people get, it is nothing to people who work, who are not even elected, who are being given so much money for doing nothing. So the 14 million makes sense. I pity Nigerian people because of the solid economic reconstruction we are doing now. We have wiped out the middle class. We have wiped out almost everything. But it will come back. I pity Nigerian people, especially the poor of the poorest. You know me, my foundation, not just Okalu Foundation, is doing a lot. Not only my constituency, all over. So I cry when you and your colleagues celebrated me saying 14 million and I become a rogue and a thief. I am happy you say that Fox acclaimed me as a billionaire, and Fox cannot.
Anyway, let's not get into self-glorification. One thing I want us to look at here as people, the Nigerian Senate, I believe they are not telling us the truth yet. Something is wrong somewhere and we're not getting to it. Ojus Okalu came out to say that he earns 14 million. Out of that 14 million, he will pay 9.8 million to staff salaries and their whatever. So if you take 14 minus 9.8, that will give you 4.2. So meaning he earns 4.2 million per month. 4.2 million, if you convert it to pounds, that's about 1,900 pounds or 1,950 pounds. Convert it to dollars, it will give you 2,000, less than $2,500. Well, many of you who work in the diaspora know that that is, that's virtually no money anyway. Now, the question is, why is the Nigerian Senate not telling Nigerians the truth? Recall that a senator of the Federal Republic came out to say, let me play the video here. Let me, let me go and look for the this senator here before we let me this senator here, right? Suleiman Abdurrahman Kau Sumaila. That's him here. I can go to his this in here. That's him. He's an OFR. He granted an interview to BBC. This interview here. Listen to it.
To wani dan majalisar dattawa a Najeriya ya shaida BBC kudin albashi da na gudanarwa da yake karba a wata.
Kuɗi da ake karba na albashi a wata bai karasa naira miliyan 1 ba. A Senate a yanzu hakan ana bawa kowanne sanata naira miliyan 21 a kowanne wata kuɗin gudanar da ofis.
Naira 21. So, naira miliyan 21. Naira miliyan 21. 21. No, naira miliyan 21. 21. Right? 21 million. And again, if we go, this is the man here who came out to say, I earn how much they pay to my account every month is 21 million. Okay. Shehu Sani, that said yesterday, the revenue and mobilization, whatever, refuted my statement, but I am now vindicated by Senator Kuwa Sumaila, who confirmed that the monthly alert is 21 million and not 1 million. Ojus Okalu says 14 million. Okay. Let's listen to this one.
We challenge any member of the National Assembly who have the courage, a senator, to show us his last month alert, where he received the so-called allowance and the whole salary. I have a personal friend, a serving senator. Yesterday, he opened his telephone, showed me the last alert he received, and it corroborates Akau's Mela's position. 21 million naira. Actually, 21,448,000 naira was what my friend received last month. So why is the discrepancy? Why are they shouting all over? In fact, this is just a tip of the iceberg. Let me give you the following disclosures. Now, everybody remembers that every senator was given 500 million naira constituency project. It was credited to their accounts directly. This is a breach of the Procurement Act. If you are giving somebody 500 million naira to undertake any project in his own constituency, number one, that project must be clearly defined, not at his own discretion. Number two, that allocation must be on the line item of a budget. It's not there. Any project that you are going to undertake with that money must be published through a tender. There will be people who will respond. There will be a technical.
So if we haven't listened to this, right? Let's come back to. Haven't listened to this. Let's come back to this. We come here and we have the chairman of the Senate Committee on Media and Publicity, Yemi Aderomu, in a statement on Thursday said that the clarification became necessary in the light of some misconceptions. Now, why? Because this guy is an NMPP, so it's not like he's an APC. So, a minority from a person from the opposition minority cannot be lying because he knows his consequences. He's not going to be protected. But here, they could not do anything because he has his bank alert nakbakam. There is nothing they can do. So they are taking home 21 million. Then why is Ojus or Carlo telling us that they are taking 14 million, and even the 14 million naira kuku that the 14 million naira is chicken
That
change to them.
14 million is too little for my colleagues.
14 million naira is too little for him and his colleagues. Jovika TV is saying that it's 21 million. So, people, these are little things that really makes you shake your head and you begin to ask yourself, where are we headed to? 21 million, 14 million. One senator says he receives 14 million. The other says he received 21 million. Revenue, mobilization, and accountability, whatever, says they pay 1 million. Think about it. You work in an office. Your HR says, we pay you 1 million. No, they pay you $1,000 every month. You bring your pay slip like this. Those of you who work in the United Kingdom say, Abba, my P45 or whatever says $5,000. HR say, we pay you $1,000. You say, no, they pay me $5,000. Another person that is in the same band with you say, oh, no, wait a minute. We are doing the same thing. You pay me $13,000. Now, the HR that said, no, I pay this one $1,000 and I pay this one $1,000 has not said, oh, there must be a mistake. Oh, yeah, Mr. A, refund. Mr. B, refund. Why do you think they will come and say, no, we are not paying you 1,000? You say, no, but look at it now. This is what I say. No, we are not paying you 1,000. I say, but you are paying me. No, we are not paying me 1,000. What you're paying me? And no one is taking it serious. No one has said, okay, if we are paying you this amount, then we are overpaying you. Refund. We're going to head to court. You refund. No, no one is doing that. However, these people are coming out to say, this is what you're paying us. You're saying, no, this is not what I'm paying you. Isn't that a joke? Or isn't that a joke taken too far? No, this is what you're paying me. No, this is not what you're not paying. No, this is what you're paying me. This is... Jovika said maybe they are paying those from the southeast different amount. Nigeria. You guys not gonna kill me. He said they are paying people differently. I don't know, but I think the whole thing is just kind of tiring. I don't think it makes sense. All I can leave you tonight with as I close, I do not believe that we are yet to find out how much our senators earn. We are yet to find out how much our senators earn. I say to you, if you haven't subscribed to this platform, please, by all means, subscribe, like, share, like, and subscribe. On that note, I say to us, good night. May God bless us all. Bye for
la la la